Sup fellow new kids, this is FMeister94 with my review of South Park Season 22, Episode 2, A Boy and a Priest. Please note two things. This is my personal opinion, and obviously there will be spoilers. With that said, let's get down to review. Let me start by saying I really enjoyed this episode. A lot of my qualms with the previous episode were done right in this one. And when I say that, I just mean that I think they used the sensitive topic and they did something interesting with it. And I think they handled it very well. So now let's get into the review. There is one single plot from start to end. The marshals make their way to Sunday Mass to Stan's dismay. Everything seems idyllic until Father Maxi delivers his homily, where they ravenously turn everything he says into a clerical sex abuse joke. Butters could see that it was bothering him and comes to talk to him after Mass, and so develops a special relationship between Butters and Father Maxi. This leads to Father Maxi neglecting his Mass duties, and so the people of South Park call in the Catholic Church, which leads to loads of wacky hijinks. This episode takes a character that hasn't had an episode in several years, makes us give a shit about him, even go as far as give him a character arc, and it is fucking awesome. I'll get into the character arc later in the review. So, honestly, the reason why it's been taking me so long to get this review done is I've just been racking my brain on what I could say that would honestly do the episode justice. And for all the times I've been trying to write what I want to say, really, this honestly ended up being a bit of a summary, but I really feel like it's necessary. So, this is how I'm going to do it. So, firstly, I'm going to give my general thoughts. Then I'm going to be talking about, the story of the adults, then the children, and then really Butters and Father Maxi. And finally, I'll just be going into the Catholic Church cleanup crew. After that I'll just be discussing conclusions, but it's going to be fairly summarised, but I really feel like it's necessary, because this is a fairly dense episode, I really feel. So what were my general thoughts? Honestly, I love this episode. It feels like we are back to classic South Park. The focus is on the kids, and the kids are played off as the mature ones in the situation. It takes Father Maxi and makes us give a shit about him, which we can see some honest character development from. Butters is truly back to his adorable self. There is some really funny dark humour. It takes a sensitive topic and does something with it. Above all, it's just really emotionally grounded. And just talking about a man who has lost his purpose. What did I think of the priest? Firstly I'll be discussing the parents. So what did I think of the parents? So in execution, they are used to absolute great effect. Everything Father Maxi says in his homily, they turn into a sex joke. Even the kids realise their parents were going too far, and it just is really powerful when they were panning over to Stan and Butters about it. So and even Stan, he calls his parents out about it. It really makes you feel for Father Maxi. But at the start, I thought a little bit differently to what I do now about the parents. I just really despised how they were at the start. But then, even despite the fact that all the jokes were really bad and it was really well written, I grew to be finding that basically it really comes across as the parents just being, just having absolutely no tact. And honestly, they're making those jokes, and it's almost as a reflex to them, and they can't seem to help themselves. And in hindsight, I kind of was thinking that really, even at a point I was thinking, do they honestly think he's actually capable of it? But in hindsight, I didn't really, and that was really down to the fact that even when Randy caught Father Maxi with his kids, playing board games, just his first reaction was just to take an actual picture of it, And that was all really, Um, and if it were a case that he honestly thought he was capable of it, it isn't. And that's what I feel is really important about it. It doesn't really make them honestly, take him out as an enemy. They just honestly are ripping on him. Like, kind of reminds me back of times when Token, they were just constantly ripping on him, but like it was just meant in, good fun, and they were just acting like a bunch of pussies if they were like, offended by it or something. So it feels like there wasn't anything malicious with it, which I think is really important with it. Like, and even like later on as well, when the kids go missing, they don't even seem to really give a shit. Like all that they're caring about is just like honestly making, jokes about priests basically. And what did I think of the kids? I really like that it goes back to the basics with the kids being like the mature ones in the situation, as I was saying there above. But yeah, really it's just a case of they're the ones that actually have a bit of tact. I really like that Butters and Stan, knew that their parents were going too far. And as I was saying there, Stan was the one that actually called out his parents about it. And whenever like Father Maxi is around, like it's not a case that they're just uncomfortable with him. It's just that they honestly they're uncomfortable with him being around because they don't want to be like being selective about what they say. They're sick of all the religious talk, all of the Jesus talk. And the story is just written in the mind that, this is a man with a history in the town. And I think that's just really, really important. And that's really all that they see him as, They don't really see him, and not like and it's different to the parents. The parents going to see him as like a walking punch bag, like for jokes. But, they honestly just treat him with decency, They just think of him as that guy who doesn't shut up about Jesus. That's pretty much it. Now as for the main part of the episode, Butters and Father Maxi. The relationship is uncomfortably adorable. Butters is at his innocent, most adorable, good-natured best. So after all the townspeople were done like ripping him apart, Butters was the one to ask him if he was okay. Butters draws a lot of comparisons with Father Maxi being the butt of jokes from Cartman, but now he sees himself as being one of the popular kids because he gets invited to board game night at Stan's. But actually, Stan never invited him, as we find out later, which I have to be honest I just found absolutely hilarious. And that defines Butters' character. Butters just looks at the most positive side of everything, and never looking to be disappointed. As to how, the miscommunication happened, I do not know, but to be honest, I don't really care. Butters does have a wild imagination. And so, all it's about is really Butters trying to encourage Father Maxi to just, put himself out there. And yeah, that's pretty much exactly what he's doing. He's just coming to places uninvited, isn't he, Butters? And this leads to Father Maxi neglecting his Sunday duties, and instead he ends up spending time with Butters. It's cute, especially when Butters was doing his Professor Chaos act. I really enjoyed that piece, but it got particularly uncomfortable when Father Maxi was putting his hand on Butters' shoulder and Butters was putting his hand on Father Maxi's lap. You couldn't help but just laugh at just how goddamn uncomfortable the whole scene was. And yeah, the song. Wow, that song was absolutely hilarious. But the things turned for the worst. Butters invited Maxi to board game night and at Stan's. But unfortunately, Randy ends up interrupting them and looks to take a picture and post it, as pretty much spreading rumours about him. And yeah, so Maxi leaves. And when he tries again and goes to Clyde's birthday party at the roller skate park with Butters, he overhears Kyle telling Butters he shouldn't bring his priest everywhere because, he's bumming everyone out with all his Jesus talk. And again, this leads to Maxie running off again. But this time he cuts things off completely with Butters because, he doesn't feel like he deserves it because he knew there was a cancer in the church but just did nothing about it. And the whole scene is very sad, seeing as for both characters, this is like the closest friendship that they've ever had with anyone, And I do think it's really cool in terms of the fact that it's a follow-up to the episode Red Hot Catholic Love, which is the episode where he went to the Vatican and found out that basically it was part of Vatican law that they were allowed to have sex with children, basically. And from when he was like even just meeting the other priests as well, they were all saying basically that they all were having sex with boys. And so like, you really do see him more on a kind of like an actual as a person in the community more than a priest, because like he's not really even a priest in the eyes of most priests because he doesn't even like have sex with children, basically. And yeah, more than anything, he's taken as like just one of the members of the community, and that's what I really enjoy about it. Now to get into the Catholic Church cleanup crew. I really like how they go completely literally with it, and the first time we see them, they have like they have cleaning equipment with them. Like, are they like janitors for the Denver Archdiocese or something? And on the side, they just run like shady errands, cleaning up the mess made by priests. And I quote, doing their thing. I don't know why I just find that hilarious, but yeah. So the Archbishop gets a call for Mr. Mackey saying that Father Maxie went missing. So he gets his cleanup crew to clean up his mess, thinking that Father Maxie was off abusing boys. And that's what I find brilliant, given the events of South Park, Season 6, Episode 8, as I was saying, Red Hot Catholic Love. Father Maxie just learns about all this sexual abuse in the Catholic Church, And of course he just realises, it's a bigger problem than he previously thought. So honestly, they are a genuine threat to both Father Maxie and the boys in South Park. I found the gag of like seeing anything that was white was common, the red was rectal blood, absolutely hilarious. I particularly like their equipment, both the Combi and the Comboni, as they were cleaning up the church of any evidence. Randy and the townspeople come to the church, and Randy unfortunately let slip that Father Maxie was at his son's board game night. So they come to Stan's house and they start bleaching the tables and chairs. But Stan catches them and unfortunately tells them that he played with the priest, and they of course think that they mean something sexual. They mean something sexual about that. They use the Combi, which is kind of like a rotating brush head, and they just and they use it on Stan's mouth and crotch, which is absolutely hilarious. And I really do found the sound that I was making was also really hilarious. Then from Stan, they learn Father Maxie is at Clyde's birthday party. When they arrive, they start looking to bleach anywhere. At this time, they mistake frosting on Clyde's face for cum, and they begin using the Combi on him. They learn that Father Maxie is not there from Cartman, and like a normal person, Clyde pretty much tells them to get out. But these are priests, so we know Clyde just fucked up. Above all, this is just a really well-written story. So let's get on to the conclusion. So after Maxie cuts ties with Butters, Butters forlornly walks down the footpath. Priest van slows down, and they call out to Butters. And they're not even the least bit subtle about it. And because Butters likes cute animals, And he's a fucking moron. He believes that there is a bunny at the back. But in the back of the van, there is no bunny but Stan and Clyde. And I really find it funny as well when Clyde basically says, this is the worst birthday ever, yeah. He's having really bad luck on his birthday this year. So then Butters gets pushed into the back of the van. And fortunately for the kids, Father Maxie feels guilty and so goes to the Marsh's house to look for Butters, thinking that he's playing board games with Stan. Then Randy, and as they're talking, then Randy mentions to Maxie that the cleanup crew had pretty much were doing nothing in town. And but of course Maxie knows what the truth is, knowing that they're priests. Maxie reveals the kids are in danger. Randy calls Stephen, and they find out that Butters says that he said to them that he needed to go camping. Of course, Randy knows the signs. Randy knows that just basically, or whatever. Maxie just knows basically that's just like a key word for priest or whatever, Butters' parents really don't give a shit. They really don't give a shit what he does anymore, which I find quite surprising. It's been a long time since they've really given a shit about what anything that Butters has actually done. And of course, Maxie remembers where they'd gone off camping on those like Sundays and stuff like that. So the priests wait for Father Maxie with the boys tied up in their underwear, holding, I think, s'mores over the fire. While this is happening, they reveal their second piece of equipment, which is the Comboni, which is basically a street sweeper. Now, this isn't like the actual other thing, so this is clearly way too big to be just cleaning up a simple mess. So clearly, this is to get rid of evidence in a much more sinister way, and of a much more sinister kind. So then Father Maxie comes to the rescue, and he is willing to give up his life. But instead, they reveal that all they want to do is they want to give him a trip to Maldives. They want to transfer him over to Maldives. That is when he realizes that they have no intentions of letting the children go. And honestly, if he were to leave as well, the boys would be in serious danger. So, in an awesome scene, he steals the unguarded Comboni and runs the priests over one by one with it. And basically this like Comboni, it's basically like a giant street sweeper. So yeah, that is one way to go. They went in a very, very gory scene, which they totally fucking deserve. And as he is untying the boys, he tells them that he has realised his purpose, which is to protect the boys, which is to protect his young flock. Above all, I have no complaints of this episode. It's just an awesomely, amazingly written episode, especially given that it was only produced in 1 week. We see some strong character development from Father Maxie, and there's like a actual character arc for him, where he's got no purpose at the start. It's just like a walking punchline, a walking joke. And it's also quite good in terms of the fact that at the end, he's still continuing to do churches. He's still continuing to do the masses as usual. The people are still doing the same thing to him. People are still just making everything he says into a clerical abuse joke. But he doesn't give a shit anymore because he knows his purpose. He knows he's there because if anybody else was there, they'd be a serious threat to the children. And I like the fact that it kind of really sort of concludes off in like the episode Red Hot Catholic Love, because in that episode, all that he really does is he stops atheism, but he's got some really dodgy information there, and he doesn't seem to be in any way bothered or react to it. But in this episode, he honestly has to react to it because these priests have encroached on his town. And yeah, maybe I'm just looking a bit too deep into it, but yeah. That's just something I kind of realised about it, after watching it a couple of times. And yeah, it's just padded out with a lot of great jokes. And yeah, just nice little kind of like background touches. Like another background touch I kind of forgot to mention earlier was that you could see like in the roller skate park at Clyde's birthday party, there was like they're like Tweak and Craig were like there skating together, holding hands and stuff like that, just in the little background. And I always like that there is a real sense of loyalty to all the characters, and for the most part they don't really think lightly of doing stuff with their characters. They really want to kind of like just maintain the status quo in that universe, They want to just maintain like, the integrity of every single character. And yeah, they always like to put those like kind of neat little touches which are kind of sticking to the continuity of it as well, Of course, though, it kind of resets in terms of age. They're always the same age. That's something I'd like to see change. I'd like to see them grow up a little bit, maybe become 12, and maybe stop when they actually reach like junior high. And despite the fact that I thought I would, after watching it the first time, I kind of hated the parents, in all honesty, it did feel extremely reactive. It felt like everything they did was just reactive, that they just had no tact whatsoever. And yeah, as such, I couldn't really dislike them in the episode, which is something that I kind of found surprising. But yeah, just kind of need the second viewing, and you don't really have any issues with them, and that's what I like. I like the fact that still all the characters in the episode still feel fairly likable. It's only the characters that are basically killed off in this episode that are introduced this once that you see as like the villains basically. And yeah, Butters and just Father Maxie's relationship, it was just so charming. It was somewhat uncomfortable at parts. But yeah, like I really liked that basically, these two characters, they really have no one else that they, honestly sees them for kind of who they are, that honestly appreciates them for the kind of person that they actually are. And yeah, it was really nice to see them like build a friendship. And above all, I'm just really excited to see what episode they produce next, what topic they produce next. I'm really looking forward to it. So, I give A Boy and a Priest a grand score of 9 out of 10. So, that's my review or summary of A Boy and a Priest, and I do apologise about how much I summarise it a bit, but I really feel like it really has a lot in it. It's very packed full of content and stuff to talk about that I really liked. So I'll be doing another review for the next episode, so if you enjoyed it, let me know by liking the video. Let me know what you guys thought of the episode in the comment section down below. If you guys would like to be notified of when I post my next review, consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already, and ringing the notification bell. So that is all, fellow new kids. Take it easy. Goodbye.